Welcome back to Amazin But True, our New York Mets podcast from the New York Post. I'm the podfather, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Radio on Twitter. Figgy is golfing today. You know, if it's a charity event, it involves golf and free food and free drinks, you'll find Figgy there. So he is there, and he tells me we expect to potentially have Bartolo Colon on the podcast on Thursday. So we might take a trip to the Bartolo Colon Spanish Academy, the big sexy Spanish Academy. And if you're watching on the New York Post Sports YouTube page, you'll see the shirt giveaway. You know, I have said on the show the Mets have done fat shaming by not giving XLs instead of larges, but I believe this is a large, and it fairly is a good fit. And black is a good color. It's a slimming color. Big sexy by Bartolo. The back is, if you saw the picture I posted, is a bottle of cologne. The whole advertisement the Mets did, cologne. So it's kind of funny. It's a cool giveaway. I'm glad I went for the shirt. And I still got to watch the Jets get absolutely demolished, but the Giants won. You can hear that on Blue Russian Gangs all here, of course. Joining me in just a minute will be the host of the Subway Touche podcast, Anthony Rivera. You've heard him on the show when he filled in for me to do the show with Figgy, I believe in June, when I had a bachelor party and wedding back-to-back weekends. And now he will join me here in a minute. But the Mets, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Reds over the weekend. It is mind-blowing that the Reds are in the playoff race, because I look at this team like, how the hell did they do it? They don't have a lot of pitching. They have a lot of below-average hitters, but they have found ways to win. Ellie De La Cruz, talk about going from 100 to 0 real quick. This guy went from 1 to 9 real quick. He went from a leadoff hitter to 3-hitter, cleanup. He's batting 9th over the weekend. I mean, he's an incredible talent and an incredible story, but man, has he regressed over the last few months. And, you know, he's still the shortstop of the future there. He's going to get the full year next year. But it's an interesting thing to watch, and a similar predicament to what the Mets are in here with, you know, like a guy like Brett Batty we'll talk about. Like, is he the Mets' future third baseman? Ronnie Mauricio hasn't regressed, has looked consistently good at the plate, hasn't really made any big mistakes in the field. He's going to be, you know, talked about as a guy who could be a starter next year. But the Mets want to go young. You know, and I say it every episode, and I hate to sound like a beaten drum. You wish you had months of this. You wish you had a few months of this show. But, you know, it was Bartolo Colon Day Sunday. That was nice. He threw out the first pitch. I'm disappointed he didn't throw a strike. I mean, it was almost in the dirt. I thought Bartolo would throw a laser down the middle and lobbed it in there. You know, beloved Met. You know, I wasn't obsessed with Bartolo like everyone is. It's a fun story. He was great. 44 and 34. In his Mets career. He was an innings eater, you know, a good player, not a Hall of Famer, but a fun career for a guy who played all over, played for a couple decades, you know, went from slim to bigger, became a beloved big fella. We love our big fellas. So, you know, he's a cool story. But, you know, Sunday they win over the weekend 8-4. Jose Quintana, another strong start. The Mets, the good news, they got good starting pitching all weekend. Well, you know, the bats we know aren't going to always be there with some of the guys they're throwing out there. As good of a story as it's been, the Ortegas, the Arauzes, you know, luckily no more saying Danny Mendick on this show. But, you know, they're going to have their days they don't score enough or the bullpen blows it. But the starting pitching has been promising. So that's the recap of the weekend in the city. If you probably saw my legs, my fat legs on the top left of the scoreboard bug yesterday. I was in that first row in the Delta, and luckily, I don't think it got my face eating a hot dog. You know, I have been captured eating a glizzy before becoming a glizzy gladiator. But one guy who, I don't know if he's a glizzy gladiator or not, is Anthony Rivera, who will join me now. Anthony, are you a glizzy gladiator, or do you, you know, mildly enjoy glizzies?
What is glizzy?
Hot dog.
That's what it's called, really?
Some people call it glizzies, yeah.
I guess I do like a glizzy. I mean, I when I was at the game on Saturday, I had one with some fries. The simple stuff I like.
I get mad though when people, especially if it's like their first time or they've been a few times and they're like, I can't wait to eat a hot dog at the game. Citi Field is voted #1 food in baseball. So if you go often and you mix it up, that's fine. But if you're going one time and you're going to the prominent food stadium like Citi Field and getting a hot dog, come to the Podfather first and get the recommendations, because I shouldn't get triggered by that. But like when you get a hot dog and chicken fingers at a stadium that has steak sandwiches, arepas, you know, it's got Pig Beach barbecue. You got, you know, I get if you're not going to do the milkshake with the donut, it's a lot. I get that. It's a lot on your belly. It might not be a great stadium, but like there's so many good, like pork belly in the Piazza Club. Like the crumbs, the cookies up top. Like there's just so many other items, and we're like, I don't know. It probably doesn't frustrate you like it frustrates me because I'm just the big food guy there. But like, I get a little mad by that when you go to Citi Field and eat that.
Well, let me preface this by saying I do love the simplicity of, ballpark food. However, me and Mrs. Subway to Shea had the Saturday plan this season, so we've tried almost everything at Citi Field. I love the steak sandwiches from Pat LaFrida.
Give me your Mount Rushmore food. Let me go. Give me 1 through 4. So is steak sandwich number 1?
I think the steak sandwich is number 1.
Okay.
We do like the is it the chicken donut sandwich? That's up
Yes.
there. I like the porchetta sandwich as well. It's a little salty, but I do like that. And I'm trying to think. The arepa was really good. We tried that on Tuesday. That was very tasty. So
I'm still
that's
praying to
up
the
there.
Lord above for getting rid of the churro nachos. That was the
Didn't get to
goat's
try
food.
those.
It was only there for like a month or 6 weeks, and it's a shame. The arepas replaced it at the Taste of Queens. Are you a Queens guy? What borough do you represent, or are you Jersey?
I am a Jersey guy, but I
Sorry to
used to
hear.
represent Flushing when I was born.
Okay,
So that's
all right.
where the Met fandom comes into place. But yeah, I love Queens.
Yeah, Queens is the goat borough,
Yeah.
despite what the haters say, thinking it's Brooklyn or Staten Island shouldn't be uttered. I heard Staten Island, might want to secede. I'm like, please do save us all. Get rid of the borough entirely. Send it to the moon. Anthony Rivera is with us here on Amazin But True. Follow him on Twitter at Ant Rivera 86 and check out the Subway to Shea podcast wherever you get podcasts. And we'll talk some baseball now. I could do a whole show on food, but it's kind of a tease here when you see Tylor Megill and David Peterson now pitching great, because it's like, where has this been consistently over the last few years? And I don't think the Mets should be fooled into what they're doing here in the final month to make it like they are 2 pieces of the 5-man rotation next year. We know they're going to go out and get free agents, whether that's an Ohtani or a Yamamoto or whether it's a Kershaw, or, a Michael Lorenzen, one of those middle tier starters. They're going to get help. But I kind of hope they don't get fooled. I do think Megill and Peterson are earning themselves a spot as a depth piece like they were this year as a 6 and a 7, if someone goes down. But I don't know if we should be fooled into what they've done the last few weeks. It's been nice to see, 10 Ks for Peterson on Friday. Megill, a strong start. Both gave up 2 runs Friday, Saturday, but I just don't know long-term and 2024 if they should be part of the rotation.
Yeah, Peterson is really not fooling me with this little run that he's doing. And I'm nothing to take away from David Peterson, but I had been behind that guy for so long. I was saying that he's not, like Steven Matz. And that's pretty much what we've gotten from him, most of this season and the last couple seasons. He's more of a bullpen guy to me. I think he's a lefty that can come out of the bullpen. Maybe he's a long reliever. That would be very helpful. So I don't see much from David Peterson in the starting rotation. Like you said, he could be a depth piece. We could use him maybe 7th or 8th in the depth line. I'm more interested in what Tylor Megill is doing. And if he can, possibly be a 5th, 6th starter when the Mets need it, because the Mets aren't going to go and spend a whole lot of money on the starting rotation. They need so much that I can't see them, outside of getting maybe 2 pitchers in the rotation out of free agency. I don't see them going so crazy. Maybe they make a trade, but Tylor Megill has to, and I said this with Dexter Henry, your colleague, he has to definitely show what he's made of. And I think over the last month, he's pretty much doing what he has to do to maybe make a rotation spot, maybe be that 5th man, definitely be 6, 7. We're seeing the velocity go up for him, which is a very good thing. Maybe he's fully healed from the injury he sustained last year, finally. And it's for him, I think it's most important. If we're going to get any roster depth out of the rotation, it's going to come from Tylor Megill.
I don't want either of them. I'm sorry. I don't want either of them in the starting 5. I am fine with them being a 6 or 7, but I want to aim higher. I think if you want to sell to the fan base next year that you're going to be a competitive team, you gotta show me that. And the guys out there, if you want, a list of some of the names, whether that's a Martin Perez, Ryu, Kershaw, Ohtani, obviously. Urias, you're going to shy away from the off the field stuff. You're not going to go there. You're going to stay away from Greinke, probably stay away from Alex Wood, Cookie. Aaron Nola's the other name. Does he stay in the division? He intrigued me. I would take an Aaron Nola over Megill and Peterson. Giolito is an interesting name. Sonny Gray has quietly put together a nice season. He's an interesting name. Blake Snell is going to be one of the top ones of the market. Will they pay a guy like Blake Snell? You know, in my opinion, Ann, if you have a Yamamoto, Senga, Quintana, Blake Snell, and then one of those other middle guys, whether it's a Gibson, a Paxton, a Perez, a Ryu, one of those other guys at 5, then you have those depth pieces. I think you're cooking with Edwin Diaz coming back, and then, of course, you fix the middle relief. But in my opinion, and you have to go out and either trade for one or two and sign one, or go sign 3 starting pitchers, because Quintana has shown tremendous deal. And you wonder, what if you had him the first half of the year, because he has been a walking quality starter better almost every time. You know, doesn't strike out the world, gets ground balls, just finds a way to get out with his off-speed stuff. He's just been a professional like he's been his whole career. So I'm looking forward to him and Senga that in the rotation. But I think you got to get three guys, Ant.
The problem is how much money are you willing to spend? Obviously, you want the Yamamoto and the Snell. You're going to spend on those guys. But when you're talking about now the Gibsons of the world, the Martin Perez's of the world, is the price of them worth it over what you have in Tylor Megill, and maybe utilizing that money elsewhere, like in the bullpen, or maybe for another bat, a DH bat, or however they are going to spend that way? I always look back at what we did with Cookie Carrasco. It was easy to bring him back because we lacked depth in the rotation. So pick up the $14 million. But when he's providing you worse than what Tylor Megill, you just wasted $14 million where you could have spent that somewhere else.
Quintana last 4 starts, 1.82 ERA. Senga last 5 starts, 1.65 ERA. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what they do with this rotation, because, they've talked about, the forecast report. Al Roker, Epler has told us that the Mets aren't going to have the same projection next year. So it's hard to project what the rotation will be. You don't need those Hall of Famers at top. You don't need the $40 million guys. You saw that this year. The Max Scherzer trade has looked more and more brilliant as days have gone by, and now his season is over. Unfortunate for him. Fortunate for the Mets that they were able to get a top prospect for him and Luis Angel Acuna. We'll see if Acuna, I don't think he won't be on the opening day roster, but there is a chance later in the year we see Acuna as part of this team. Maybe a guy steals some bases late in the season. Now that shifts us to the other Mets prospects and guys who are up here. Brett Batty is concerning. They raved about this guy being the ultimate hitter, being a solid third baseman, not a Gold Glover. He's not been a good third baseman, and he's been a wildly inconsistent hitter. And now he's, not even playing that much. What do you think about the future of Brett Batty? Because, Joe DeMaio thinks, Joe said he thinks it's probably going to be a combination of Mauricio Batty, maybe a third, but he thinks, they're going to give him a shot. Batty, by the way, is dealing with a groin strain, so that's why he wasn't playing the last few days. But, I can't live with him being the everyday guy right now. He just has not shown me enough. Do you think you can trot him out there come April and make him the guy? Because since July 1st, hitting 157 in a Mets uniform has just completely regressed post Eduardo Escobar trade, where you, in 39 games, you just can't start him. You can't confidently say, I'm going to shoe you in the lineup every day. And then he doesn't play for his lefties anyway. So anytime you play a lefty, he won't play. And I think Ronnie has played good enough where, he could be an option to be an everyday guy, and he's a switch hitter, so you don't have to worry about the matchups. But what are your thoughts on Brett Batty?
It's so weird watching what we've seen from Brett Batty. He really hasn't even gotten started, right? I mean, he had the big home run his first at bat, and he tailed off. Then he got injured, was pretty much done for the year. And then, he lit it up in spring training. They didn't give him the starting nod. They gave it to Eduardo Escobar, and I guess I kind of understood that, going with the veteran. They bring him back up, and he still hasn't really gotten started yet. And it's frustrating to see, because he really played well in AAA. So I don't know what it is, if it's something mental or what, but he has had a hard time adjusting We've seen what Francisco Alvarez could do and how he's been able to adjust. And we are going to get that period at some point with Ronnie Mauricio. Will he be able to adjust to major league pitching? Because there's going to be spells where he's going to have a struggle. So we'll see if he could turn it around. We really haven't gotten much from Mark Vientos, who's kind of been hitting a little bit better as of this month. Brett Baty has been the one that has been very disappointing. But the Mets need to decide if they are going to invest, and if they are going to invest in Brett Baty, it has to be for a full season. If they're going to invest in him and Vientos or him and Mauricio, however they're going to put it, they're going to have to invest in those three. Otherwise, you might as well go out in free agency and try to sign a Matt Chapman or, another, is it Candelario from Chicago who plays third base? Mm-hmm. Maybe a guy like him. But if not, if you really want to see Brett Baty play third base, they're going to have to give him time. But, his time's running out with all of these prospects who kind of play similar positions. Acuna is going to play, he could play second base, and you can move Mauricio to third base. Vientos has been playing third base. Both of them have kind of been playing third base better than Baty when it comes to, defense as well. So Baty might be the odd man out, but the Mets need to make a decision this offseason on what direction they're going to go with those prospects.
Mark Vientos, 3-hit game on Sunday, and since August 29th, he's in 354 plate appearances in 14 games. And you watch this now and you see this success and you could smile a little bit, but it still frustrates me and should frustrate Mets fans how much they fumbled this entire baby Mets situation. I mean, I'm not going to rip on Vogelback again because I've done it enough. And he had the, Danny Burgers with the Pat LaFrieda Burgers ad on the scoreboard yesterday. It was burger on burger crime going on. And then he hits a 3-run, ball off the wall that for any other hitter in the history of the sport, it's a triple. But for Daniel Vogelback, it's a, just getting into second as the ball comes in the infield, 3-run double. So good for him on that pinch hit. But it makes you mad because now you see Mark Vientos playing consistently and showing some promise. But the sample size just isn't there because he just has not played consistently enough that he never knows when he's in the lineup that you can't utter him having a starting spot. And he's probably a trade piece. But what is his value? Is he a part-time DH? I think the Mets have to get a permanent DH. Since that position has become available for them, it's been a natural disaster at DH. Whether it was Ruff, whether it was Vogelback, they haven't had a true designated hitter have success, which is why I want a guy like JD Martinez to come here, a guy who could, put up 20, 25 homers and hit 260 for you. But, they fumbled this so much. And that's why you get mad about it, because Vogelback has no part of this Mets future. And, he was taking at bats from Vientos. He was taking at bats from Mauricio, from Baty, from these guys. And if you, as soon as you made the trade, just said, all right, let's trot the young guys out there, you would have got 2 full months to see what you had in these guys. Now you got a couple of weeks, a good spurt here and there. It's not enough time to truly evaluate these players. And sure, you could say, oh, we'll evaluate them in spring and see how they're doing. But, spring's different. It's a different animal. It's not an in-game scenario. You're not going up against teams pushing for the playoffs. I think this is good for these guys going up against teams that are in a race right now. The Reds are trying to win games. The Marlins coming up this week are trying to win games. The Diamondbacks are very much, last week they come here, they were trying to win games, and the Mets beat them up. So you're seeing some success from these baby Mets, which is fun and all, but you're like, why couldn't we see this the moment they decided to sell? While the Ortega was fun, while the Arauz was fun, while DJ Stewart's been great, and DJ Stewart's looking like a guy who could fight for a roster spot for sure. You're like, why did all these 4A players play instead of the baby Mets every day? And why were we robbed, Anthony, of 2 full months and even more? I mean, Alvarez was the one guy all year, but, I've mentioned it many times early in the year. Vientos gets called up early in the season, never plays once a week. Buck never plays him. Why is he on the roster? Why is he not in the minor leagues getting at bats instead of rotting away playing once a week or as a pinch hitter for the Mets? So I just think this whole situation was fumbled. And as a fan, while it's promising to see the talent, promising to see what they have in the minor leagues, and it's also frustrating.
I don't know about the other three, but I think we kind of got robbed of Vientos last season at the trade deadline. I thought he should have been up then. Then they decided to go with Ruff and the whole Vogelback situation. And I didn't want Vogelback back at the beginning of the season. I thought he did not provide what Buck Showalter and Billy Epler claimed they were looking for, and that was versatility. Vogelback doesn't provide that. All he could do is DH and pinch hit. He can't play the field. He could barely run. And, I was at a game where in the ninth inning, he got a base hit. He tried to stretch it into a double, and he got thrown out a second. It cost the Mets the game. And I think since then, they really haven't used him as much. Obviously, DJ Stewart becoming more of a power presence has taken time away from him as well. But I don't know, at least Alvarez has gotten himself going, and even he's been struggling batting average wise. I don't know how many people put stuff into batting average anymore. It still means something to me. But his power's there. He gets big hits. And we just haven't seen that from the Vientos and Batty. Mauricio seems like he can get a big hit. He had the monster home run on Tuesday. Man, that was freaking to the moon. But I need to see more from these guys, and I hope during spring training that they seriously get a big look if they're going to go with them. Let them improve like you said they've been doing during this time against teams that are in the playoff hunt. Outside of last year when they brought him for that Brave series and it was just a mess, a debacle. I feel like they did it a little better this way, but maybe we did wait a little too long to bring them up. But, Buck has his guys, and I think, Vogelback was one of them. And, every time that I, would get on Vogelback, he would get a big hit. So we would see him for more games. So you really can't win. You really can't win at all.
You can't win unless you're eating a cheeseburger, watching Daniel Vogelback, get a once in a blue moon big hit for the Mets. You mentioned Buck Showalter. Does David Stearns bring back Buck, or is he gone?
For right now, I'm going to say that Buck Showalter stays. If it was me, I would allow David Stearns to do whatever he wants. I don't like bringing in someone of a higher authority and then they have to deal with last year's people. I do understand in the front office that's a little harder to do because, as we've seen, it was just hard enough to get David Stearns. It's been a roller coaster trying to bring in front office people. I think the manager's a little bit different. So even if they do let Buck go, I think they'll be okay. If Buck was to stay, it wouldn't bother me either because, as bad as this season was, you can't take away them winning 101 games last year. And you can't keep firing and hiring all these people. But I'm pretty sure Stearns is going to want, his guy at the helm. So we'll see what happens, whether it's a Craig Counsell or someone said Pat Murphy, who's the bench coach. I don't know where they go with this coaching staff. I don't care who's at the helm. Just get me to the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. I'm very 50-50 on the fence with Buck Showalter coming back. I'm perfectly fine if Stearns wants to bring his own guy. Buck, last year was fun, but they lost in the playoffs. And this year has been an absolute train wreck. I think he, in some ways, may have, not had control of everything going on in the clubhouse completely. So I'm very much on the fence. I'll live if he comes back, and I won't lose sleep if they fire him and move on. And, I don't think Buck would lose sleep either. He'll get paid for the final year of his contract. Avoid the headache. I mean, being a veteran, like fired manager or like whatever, mutually agreed to part ways manager is like being a backup quarterback. I mean, you do nothing, you get paid. I mean, it's an incredible job and you get paid handsomely. He could go to Cancun, relax for a year with his wife and be gone and get paid for the year. I mean, what a life it is. And he could probably still get a job after that. I don't think Buck's a guy. It's like, all right, he's out of baseball a year. He'll never get back. I mean, he's been a baseball lifer. I think he would find a job pretty easily. Another fun story from over the weekend. Speaking of baseball lifers, Maybelle Blair is a very fun story. The Mets honored the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League legend, Maybelle Blair, with the Amazin Mets Foundation Legacy Award. And I was in the suite next to her. I honestly, I'll be honest, I didn't know who she was at first. And then I saw Gelbs in front of me doing, the interview with her. What a story. And what a quote that she said. I can't ever remember not loving baseball. I think my mother's nipples were baseballs. That is an elite quote from Maybelle, who is a queen. Great interview. She had a great first pitch. I mean, it was more of a strike than Bartolo Colon. Of course, it was a little bit closer, but at 96 years old, you can, underhand. You can do whatever you want at that age. So, I thought that was a cool little story. Anthony, we're pulling for strengths. You're looking for fun topics. And I think Maybelle Blair was a fun 4:00 Thursday game topic. There were about 7 fans in the building. I don't know what they were thinking with a 4:00 Thursday game. Maybe they get some after school programs or something. But I thought that was a fun little thing. You like these little fun things down the stretch when you're 5 games away from being eliminated from the playoffs.
And you expected what you did from her. She's very witty. She had the one-liners. I have an affinity for the movie A League of Their Own, which, obviously that's the league that she came from. And that's a top 3 baseball movie for me. So it's great to see her honored. I've never been to the Baseball Hall of Fame, which I'm hoping to go to.
Oh, you gotta go. You gotta go. It's a must.
Do they have actual, because in the movie they have a wing there for the All-American Baseball. Do they have that?
I believe so. I haven't been in years. I went for Piazza's induction. But I believe it there. But that place is like heaven for baseball fans. When I grew up and I went for the first time, I remember, I was a big sports memorabilia collector, and there are so many shops. I remember like being in heaven on my Mordecai money. Happy Jew year, happy Lashana Tovat, all my fellow Jewish people. I'm allowed to say that because I'm Jewish. I'm allowed to say happy Jew year. If you're not, it's probably a little bit more frowned upon, but I can. And I was on that Mordecai money, Anthony, using that bar mitzvah money to buy autographed baseballs and meet legends. And that place is heaven. And I always remember, I did like a batting practice, one of the batting cages. I ended up either spraining or like breaking my thumb in a batting cage in Cooperstown. And we had to go to a random ER in Cooperstown. Listen, outside of that strip there's not many things to do in Cooperstown. It is very much, bumble fudge America up there. So I always remember there's a picture of me with a cast or a little thing on my thumb doing a thumbs up with a sprained thumb in Cooperstown. So that'll be that's Drake's next hit single, sprained thumb in Cooperstown. But you got to go sometime.
I've always, asked people what their thoughts were on the Hall of Fame. Like, oh yeah, I want to go to the Hall of Fame. Maybe I'll spend a week there. They're like, no, there's only the strip and that's it. There's nothing else to do over there.
Yeah, no more than a weekend. A week, and you might end up in dark places in Cooperstown. There's another Drake single, "Dark Place" in 5 a.m. in Cooperstown is not going to be a single because it's usually in a bed at a Red Roof Inn if it's 5 a.m. in Cooperstown. Anthony Rivera is with us for a few more minutes. Amazing but true. Jake Brown at Jake Brown Radio, and he hosts the Subway to Shea Mets podcast. The Mets will take on the Marlins this week, and yes, 5 games away from elimination. The Mets. This is the episode. It has finally happened. On Sunday, the Mets won their 69th game of the season. It's the nicest win for the Mets all year. 8 runs, 69 wins, and the Mets 11 games under, 8.5 out. So you're saying there's a chance they will face the Marlins, who are tied, and that's going to be very interesting, this wild card, because the Phillies got the top spot pretty much secured, the 3.5 out, but Arizona's only a half game up on Chicago and Miami, who are tied, and then Cincinnati, who, again, I'm still shocked that they have a shot for the playoffs because they beat the Mets 2 out of 3, but they don't look like a very good team, but they find ways to win, so I'll give them credit. They're better than the Mets, but the Mets will face the Marlins, have a chance to gain ground. You sweep, you get within 5.5. It's crazy. I would say there's crazier things that happen, but it's reached the point where crazier things have not happened. Mets had 7 and 17. This would be 8.5 in 13. So it would essentially take Miami losing nearly every one of their, they had to pretty much go 1 and 11. The Cubs got to go, 2 and 10. The Reds got to go, 1 and 10 or 2 and 9. It's pretty much an impossibility. But for this could be the final episode. We hold out hope that they make the playoffs.
I still can't believe the season that we've gone through with all the expectations. Yeah, with all the expectations, with all the hope. And it was really drained out by the end of May. And then June was the, nail in the coffin for this season, where they had that awful June. this is my first year having, a ticket package for the team, team membership, 20 games we did. And it was the most games that I've been to in a season, I think since 2007, which was another disappointing year. But I've never been happy to have a season finish in a long time. It's just been so draining. Citi Field is great. Like you said, the food, awesome. A lot of great options, a lot of great things to do out at Citi Field. But the product that has been put out on the field by the team has just been disappointing. And now we're just, let's see if Pete can get to 50. Can Francisco Lindor get to 100 RBIs? Like, let's see what the kids can. But, after a certain amount of games, it's just very frustrating. And every time the Mets get to 7 games out of a wild card spot, I'm always like, maybe there's a chance here. Maybe we could do something. And then they go on to lose 3 or 4 in a row. So it's just been a frustrating watch of this team all throughout the season. And I'm just happy that, October 2nd is going to be the last game of the season, or October 1st. And we can finally talk about, David Stearns coming in and have more fodder to talk about on our podcast.
Yeah, it's another year where the offseason is the season for the Mets. And, we experienced that a lot in our childhood of, all right, let's see what they do in free agency. And now you actually have a pretty competent, president of baseball operations, the first one of that title in the role, and a guy with all the respect in the world. And that's what we're waiting for. And I agree, I cannot wait for the season to end. And for me, it's tough because now we're locked into football here at the Post with the Jets and Giants podcast. The Rangers are right around the corner. So it's like, can the Mets just end already? I mean, these games don't matter. We're searching for storylines, but there's not much there. This team is just not that good, and they have a bunch of bums in the bullpen. Like, they just, Bickford is one intriguing piece because I think he's got good stuff, but outside of, Rayleigh Ottavino, the rest of the bullpen, see ya. No Hartwig Pleaks, no Drew Smith, none of these other guys coming out of the bullpen. But yeah, the offseason, I looked Sunday and I went to 67 last year, which is the most I ever went to in total. I think 61 home, 6 road. This year, I think I'm somewhere around 45. So I might go to one more, but I said it's my last afternoon game because the last one of the season is the only afternoon game left, and that's a football Sunday, 3:00. No shot I'm going to that game. Might go to 1 or 2 more in that final week, but I looked around and said, yeah, I'm going to miss this place, but I also need a break. Like, the wear and tear it has on your mental health, watching this team day in and out and going to the ballpark. And, I've been privileged this year because I know a lot of people there, and, I have my, I have a good time when I'm at Citi Field, but I'm also like, I also gained the Citi 15. It's not the freshman 15. I said in the show, it's Citi 15. I'm becoming a freaking fat ass going to that place and eating non-stop food. So I could use the break from the stadium and start cooking some salmon and brown rice at home. My God, there's rust building up on my pots and pans because I've been eating out and eating at Citi Field so much that I could really use this break, and we could use it for a health. Well, if you're looking for things to do that final week and the rest of the season, obviously the kids, but the giveaways, you still got the Buck Showalter windbreaker. I might go for that, get a little windbreaker. The Mets crossbody bag, kind of like your Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover, using one of those crossbody bags. Maybe I could use that. The tie-dye headband. Now, as a bald man, I don't know if it's frowned upon for me to wear a headband because it's not covering any hair. It might look a little goofy on me. I don't really need that, but I could use the windbreaker. I can maybe use the bag. And then the last game is the Mr. Med. I'm shocked. Fan Appreciation Day, they don't have like a big giveaway. Like, that seems like a disservice to the fans. Maybe they'll have a surprise and give some stuff away, but like, they should have like all the leftovers from the giveaways this season. Like, give them out randomly. Like, you get a bobblehead, you get, the shades, whatever it may be, the ghost fork ball. They should do that. Well, Anthony Rivera, you can check out the Subway to Shea podcast. And it was good catching up with you. I'm glad we got to do this finally. I know you did it with Figgy, but I am a little bit, a better host than Nelson Figueroa is. So I think you got a more organized show here with me. And enjoy your off season. I'm sure we'll talk again down the road. And I think in Stearns we trust, and I think they have the guy to get them there. Now we see what kind of money they're putting into it. And what happens with these baby Mets, which guys start, which guys do not. It's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be an intriguing offseason that I'm sure will be full of storylines, and because when do the Mets not give us headlines? Never.
Yeah, I think I think you guys take a little time off, right? During the off season.
Yeah, off season we only do if there's like a big signing or a trade. We do a show.
Yeah, I think for the first time I'm gonna do that. Like I need the break at least through October, and then they could start doing the moves and all that stuff. But I definitely need a break from watching baseball. And like yourself, you're looking forward to, obviously you got the football with the Jets, you got the hockey.
Well, I'm not
with the
looking forward to the
Rangers.
Jets because Zach Wilson is making me lose my mind already. He's such a terrible quarterback. But yes,
You're ready for
I'm
Rangers
happy.
hockey then, right?
Yeah, I'm ready for Rangers. And listen, football is still football. I'm locked in Sundays. I've been hooking up, just winning. I've been paying rent with some of my parlay wins. So I do love football. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I'm getting ready for Devils hockey, a big season coming up. So that's what I'm looking forward to most outside of and this is weird, outside of my Dallas Cowboys, who took care of business against both New York teams, but they still haven't fooled me yet because I need them to get to the NFC title game before I start believing 100% in this team.
All right, this is the point where we kick you off the show for talking about your love for the freaking Dallas Cowboys, who beat New York twice in a row. But Anthony Rivera we won't hold that against you, even though it's always screw the Cowboys. Thank you for coming on Amazin But True.
No, I appreciate you always, Jake. Thanks for having me on, and it's a fun time always on the Amazin But True podcast.
And we'll close out Amazin But True next. All righty, great stuff there from Anthony Rivera, the Subway to Shade podcast. That closed up episode 181 of Amazin But True, a New York Mets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Andrew Hartz for helping me in producing the show. Catch up on all old episodes you may have missed this season by subscribing to Amazin But True on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get podcasts, and subscribe to the New York Post Sports YouTube. Find that Amazin But True playlist. Follow us. Give us a thumbs up below. Comment below. What are you watching for from these Mets? And what do you want David Stearns to do this offseason? Let us know your offseason plans. What should the Mets do to get this ship right? Let us know in the comments below on YouTube. And Nelson Figueroa will be back, we believe, on Thursday. And we hope to have Bartolo Colon on. So stay tuned for that. We're hoping to have Big Sexy. I assume we would need a interpreter or translator along with him. So, good for Bartolo. It was a good day Sunday. I think a lot of people were excited to see him. They love him. He had a solid Mets career. And of course, he had that infamous home run in San Diego that we will never forget. So we will be back on Thursday. The Mets have a 3-game series in Miami. So if we get Bartolo, we'll probably drop it Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is a series. So Thursday afternoon, we hope to drop that episode. So stay tuned for that. Follow me on Twitter at Jake Brown Radio and follow the show at Amazin But True. For Anthony Rivera, Andrew Hartz, I am Jake Brown. We will talk to you all on Thursday. Thanks for listening to Amazin But True. Peace.